And I'm like, you know, you're losing a lot of power and you're having to create angles late. You know, I'd almost like to see at left arm parallel for a majority of people to see that club a little more up and down.
Especially with an iron. I'd almost like to see most of the set in the wrist happening by this point in their backswing.
Hey everybody, we're here today at Swing Away Golf Studio up here in Scottsdale, and we are going to start talking a little bit about why probably not the best idea to be thinking about keeping your left arm straight or locked out, and also pinning it against you or across your chest in the backswing. Okay?
Yeah, a big issue we see with players is that they take their left arm and immediately works in and across them. And another big issue is players try to keep this left arm as locked as they can, and often that leads to the same thing. Then the club kind of wanders too much in. Once the arms are really pinned across you, you don't have anywhere to go but out, usually.
It's one of those old sayings, keep your left arm straight. To me, it's just like keeping your head down. Yeah, there might be a little bit of that from time to time, but it's not a truth. It's not a necessity.
I tend to like to focus on the structure being created by what the right arm is doing and how we're hinging our wrists. That tends to be what creates the straightening of the left arm and also the elevation of the left arm. So as my right arm folds, that kind of elevates the left arm up for me.
Yeah. Well, plus, if you're thinking about keeping your left arm straight, I mean, to me, it starts at setup. I see a lot of people where there's just a ton of tension right at setup in that left arm. You can almost, their elbow is like pointed right at their belly button.
Yeah, they're trying so hard to get that thing straight that it's like
their arm is like totally external.
And then from there, that shoulder is so tight that their arm can't actually, it doesn't have any swing, so it can't like swing. So it looks muscly and everything gets out of whack. There's
not a lot of power in this motion. We get kind of locked up and limited. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to swing this club. We want to be able to have some swing to it, some speed. We talk a lot about the right hand and the right arm because for most people, like you guys are probably watching at home, it's probably your dominant hand.
Yeah, most people play golf from the side that they would throw with, from their dominant side. Now we do get a lot of Canadians, for me especially, that play backwards.
I just had one the other night.
So that usually brings in a whole different bunch of issues that can come up. But as far as this issue goes, that old wives' tale, or the old saying you always hear, keep your left arm straight.
Yeah.
It can be a bad thing.
Okay, so let's kind of start from the beginning. You guys soften up your left arm. We talk a lot about having a stronger left hand, but no matter the grip, let's soften up this left arm, almost have a little fold to it at setup. Just let it be a little more chill.
Yeah, most good players have a little bit of softness in that arm. It's not straight.
And then from there, let's talk about how we're energizing the club in the backswing, because what we tend to see happen is the left arm get pinned early. Now what happens when we pin that early?
Usually you don't wind up enough, and usually the next issue is you're going to throw it out over
the top.
Yeah, because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So we want to have room to move. If this gets across you too soon, now your sequence is going to get thrown off. Ideally, we want to see that left arm being moved by our pivoting motion.
Yeah.
So you can see my left arm's moving, but it's not coming across me too soon.
Yeah. When you say across too, would you say the position of this arm isn't working across our midline early?
It doesn't work across our midline early, and for most players, it doesn't work that far across our midline in the entire backswing.
So it's not working so much across. What's bringing this arm up and around is really, what you're saying, it sounds like, is energizing it with my turn and my wind-up.
Yeah, your turn and your wind-up is what's moving this left arm. Now, the folding of my right arm is what's going to elevate the left arm up into the plane that I want it on off the top of my backswing. So I'm not really pulling it over there with my arms.
Yeah.
I'm winding, and then my right arm's just folding, and that club naturally just goes right up where we want it.
And then let's talk a little bit about the right arm fold, because we do see a lot of people get that kind of narrow, folded up past 90, and that kind of goes with that left arm working in across.
Yeah, usually those two are coupled.
Exactly. So when you say the fold of the right arm, how do we make that happen so the club kind of stays in front of us and we work up into that nice left bend we talked about?
Ideally, the right arm only really does, it elevates a little bit, not a lot. The right arm elevates just slightly, and then it folds. Now, if I take and I turn into my backswing, you can see that that would look like pretty good right arm structure, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really have to move it very far.
Yeah.
So in reality, the right arm is not moving that far in the golf swing, and that's what's creating the elevation of the left arm. So it's mostly right arm.
Having some dynamic wrist action, allowing this right wrist to extend and work up into hinge in the backswing, for some people probably sooner than they actually do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people benefit from getting it loaded earlier, because I think a lot of the players who suck it in like this,
Yeah.
partly because it feels heavy. If I'm not loading this up,
Yeah.
this feels really, it's heavy now, and I can't get it to load once I do that.
I mean, how many students have we seen at left arm parallel where their club is like this? And I'm like, you know, you're losing a lot of power and you're having to create angles late. You know, I'd almost like to see at left arm parallel for a majority of people to see that club a little more up and down.
Especially with an iron. I'd almost like to see most of the set in the wrist happening by this point in their backswing. I think in order for people to fix this issue, they have to learn how to put energy into the system correctly, using a little pressure shift and then a wind of their body. So if I'm winding correctly, you can see that I'm not moving my arm relative to my body, but that club is moving into the arc I wanted in nicely. Just wanted to say thank you to Swing Away Golf Studio for this awesome setup for today's videos. So focusing on how you're turning and bending can direct your arms into the arc you want them in.
So a few exercises I've seen you do with students, you'll have them kind of make some little steps here and then toss the club, like literally toss the club back.
Yeah. Hard to do this and toss the club that way.
That's more of a snatching and turning in and getting out of our bends, as you can see. So more tossing it up and out.
What's funny is when I have people do that, the first few tosses, where do they go? Usually the club goes over there.
Whoosh. So, and then another one I've seen you do, if you go ahead and face the camera real quick, is I've seen you kind of hold the club and you'll kind of have them say, you're like, okay, now I want you to make a little bit of a wind up here. Get some movement going, get some flow going.
Yep. And then I let go.
Me holding it back, you get a feel of that, and then it's like whoosh. Now you're propelling that club with your turn.
And you're putting a lot more energy into it earlier than you would be if you just grabbed it and hold it back with your hands and arms.
Yeah. Okay, so there's probably another drill maybe you guys at home are thinking about that you've probably seen some tour pros do, where they take their fancy new glove and they put it under their left armpit.
Yep.
Now Milo, in your experience, this connection point they're making between their arm and, call it left pec chest, what's the reasoning behind this?
They're trying to get their arms not to work away from them in this way. So you don't really want to have your arms rolling out away from you so that the club can fall.
Yeah.
Ideally, your arm's going to elevate, but it's going to maintain its relationship more or less. It's not going to get really pinned across you. You're not trying to squeeze the glove to death.
Yeah.
You're just trying not to let it fall.
And that goes hand in hand with feeling like you're energizing the club and working up into our left bend.
Yeah.
When the hands, what we see is when the hands start to work up and out,
You almost always see
especially
the player.
without the hinge, that club becomes heavy and they come out of left bend, that club is way behind them, their arm gets trapped.
The minute the hands go this way, the club goes this way, and the body bends like that.
Yeah. I want to see one with the glove under your armpit. Stable.
Glove's still there.
So it can be a pretty good drill, but just keep in mind your tension levels and what you're trying to accomplish, because for many of you, you'll get that glove in there and then you'll want to go straighten that arm and pull it across you.
And we're still trying to keep, we don't want the arm really getting too adducted across us in our backswing.
And I would say the last point on that is for you guys at home there, I've probably heard about depth or wanting to get depth. Let's do it with our wind up and our turn versus just pinning our arms back behind us.
Yeah, true depth, good depth comes from turn, not from getting the arms back here. Yep. Hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, hit the like and subscribe, and come visit us at milolensgolf.com, where we'll help you to learn to swing more like an athlete.